Welcome to NBA Today, presented by PNC Bank.
Coming up on NBA Today, did someone say 3-1? Steph and the Warriors, they rally late to take a commanding lead over the Grizzlies. We asked Perk what happened to the dark side. Plus, we're all tied up, and the Game 4 hero is here. Al Horford, he's joining the show to talk about his stellar performance last night. Plus, Kyle Lowry officially ruled out for tonight's Game 5 in Miami. What that means for the Heat. NBA Today starts right now. Welcome to NBA Today, presented by PNC Bank. I'm Malika Andrews, joined by Kendrick Perkins and Matt Barnes. Brian Windhorst is going to be joining us shortly from Milwaukee. But I think we should start in San Francisco, where Steph and the Warriors, they got out to a 3-1 series lead over the Grizzlies. It took a late game performance. Remember, no Ja Morant saying hello to Jordan
That's one
Poole.
of them handshakes where I don't mess with you, dog.
Well, the Warriors, they were messing with Steph Curry for the first three quarters, but not in the fourth. That is when he turned it all the way on. So let's go ahead to 3:30 to play. The Warriors, they're down by 2 at this point, and Curry changed that real quick.
Oh, mean step back.
Ties it at 90. So then a minute
Steph only
left to
shoot
play.
threes?
Dylan Brooks, he was trying a 3.
Oh, God bless America.
No good.
Really struggled this series.
Off the front rim. Warriors get out in transition. Steph Curry,
big body.
and then once again,
Downhill,
Brooks
looking like a
fouls
light-skinned
Curry.
Giannis.
Well, the difference
green
is
eyes.
at the free throw line, Steph Curry hit both. So now the Warriors take a 3-point lead. Jaren Jackson, watch Draymond Green there. He actually got a hand on that. Draymond is fired up about this.
I actually turned my television off after that play.
Well, for all those who may have turned it off, take one more look. Draymond, clutch defensive play there. The Warriors would go on to win 101-98. So Steph Curry, he turned it around last night. He scored just 14 points through 3 quarters, 6 of 8 shooting. 18 shooting. And then Curry had 18 points in the fourth, 57% shooting, 50% from 3, and made 8 of his 9 free throws. Here's acting coach Mike Brown after the game.
The great part about Steph, he's got to be the easiest superstar to be around. I don't know if he has a great memory, which is fantastic. You need that in his position. He's always that confident because he thinks next play all the time.
That's just Steph. He has that mindset where he is the best shooter of all time, and it just takes one good look at the rim or at the free throw line, and when that happens, the floodgates open.
Just got to focus on just winning a game. Just go focus on winning one game right now. We'll travel tomorrow. We'll learn from it. We'll watch the film. We got a game back at home in front of our fans. They're going to give us a great boost, great juice. But I said if you play with that effort and that urgency, you're going to have a chance to win every single night. And I'm so proud of them. So come out, replicate that, still find a way individually and collectively to play better. And then hopefully we get the result we want in Game 5.
Great juice, great boost. That's a bar. All right, Brian Windhorst is joining us now on NBA Today. So we stopped Steph. He came up big. The Warriors, they took their first lead of the entire game with 45.7 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. They were still able to pull out the win. But Golden State, they haven't looked immortal all series, right? So, Matt, should the Warriors be more optimistic that they keep finding ways to win, or worried that they haven't been able to string together consistent quarters of high-caliber play here?
Warriors are completely fine, and Perk will tell you, in the playoffs, it's going to be ugly sometimes. They gave us, 142 points in Game 3 and shot 53% from the three-point line. They shot terrible, turned the ball over early, and still found a way to win down the stretch. Granted, Steph Curry went crazy, but when you're a championship team going through these playoffs, it's not always going to be blowouts and beautiful wins. You got to find a way to win ugly games, and that's what they were able to do last night. So I'm not concerned, and I know they're not either.
Brian?
Well, I'm sure they're optimistic, Malika, if Ja Morant is not playing, because if you're the Grizzlies, you're absolutely sick to your stomach that if you had Ja in this game, this would be 2-2 with you going home with home court advantage. I respect the Warriors' potency, of course, but they've had big variance in their shooting in this series, up and down, and if they hadn't had the luxury of being able to defend Dylan Brooks instead of defending Ja Morant down the stretch, we'd be seeing a completely different tune. Yeah, Draymond made a great play at the end. Steph made a couple of big plays, but that was not a great performance. And now we don't know how long Steve Kerr might be out due to COVID. So I respect the Warriors. I think they're in great position to advance to the conference finals, but they got a lot of work to do.
Perk?
I'm with you. I mean, look, you got to think about the first series against the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets was the worst team in the playoffs, in my opinion. And now you're going to the Memphis Grizzlies without their superstar and Ja Morant. He's injured. And look, the Memphis Grizzlies, they play hard, and I've been rolling on the dark side, but they're not experienced, right? So you look at the careless turnovers, you look at everything that they do that's not playoff basketball, giving up transition buckets. So with that being said, to me, the Warriors really haven't been tested by a great team with a high IQ. And so I think that's going to come back to hunt them when they get into the Western Conference Finals, whether it's against the Suns or whether it's against the Dallas Mavericks.
Well, but it's one of those things with the Golden State Warriors where sometimes I feel like when you watch them, they play up to their level of competition at times. So I think maybe the answer is somewhere in the middle, that they can take this but also be looking at, okay, these are the ways we need to get better, because we all heard Draymond Green on his podcast after the game. He said, these aren't the Minnesota Timberwolves. We're the Golden State Warriors. This is a whole different beast. Matt, I'm honestly a little bit afraid of what we're about to do next, because Perk, you have been championing the Grizzlies and the dark side the entire season.
He wore black tonight, though. He already knows the funeral is coming.
Are you okay? What happened down the stretch for them to lose control of this game and this series, and are you okay?
No, I'm not okay. I'm on 3 hours of sleep. I couldn't sleep last night. And this is what happened to the dark side. It got dark upstairs. Okay, this is what blacked out their brains yesterday. Look, their effort was there. They competed on both ends. I get that. But the next step that you have to do is play with a high IQ, especially in those moments. And you look at the transition buckets that they gave up on made shots. You look at the miscommunication. We all know that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. How do you not know where he is on the floor? How do you not communicate switches on pick and rolls? Or when is Jaren Jackson Jr. going to finally come up on the screen and say, no, I can't give Steph this shot? Those are the things, trying to get buckets, trying to play hero ball. You know, Ja Morant was out last night, and I saw a lot of guys not being stars in their roles or not playing their roles, and that's what hurt the Memphis Grizzlies. It's not their talent, it's not their effort, it's their IQ, the lack thereof.
IQ, and I also say experience, Perk, because you know the last 2 minutes winning in a playoff game is a lot different than trying to win the last 2 minutes of a regular season game. You have to learn what kind of mistakes, there's no excuses. The rotations have to be there. The coverages have to be there. All the my bads go out the window those last 2 minutes, and that's something you have to learn only through experience in the playoffs. And that's why I said from the jump, this is going to be a great, what I want to call a great learning experience for this young team. They're playing one of the, a team that's coming off a dynasty and possibly has a chance to win another championship this year. You're going to learn from all these experiences in game. You see how the Warriors execute down the stretch. You see how they run different plays and they have different coverages and they execute those all again. It might not be pretty all the time, but they know how to win down the stretch in playoff games, and that's something that Memphis doesn't have.
And then again, I look at the other leader outside of Ja Morant, and I think that's Dillon Brooks. And I watched him play yesterday, and he made my skin crawl the way he was playing the game of basketball, not playing the right way, taking ill-advised shots, taking the wrong shots, not playing together, not playing using his team to help him win. And so when you look at a guy like Dillon Brooks, look, in the playoffs, when you're down a superstar, that is contagious. Bad basketball is contagious, and it drains the energy of your team. So if you're Dillon Brooks, look, you don't have to be the hero. Go out there and do what you do. Be a pest on the defensive side of things. If Ja's not playing, let Tyus Jones make plays. Trust Jaren Jackson. He's going to kick it out the post and see you open to get you more open looks. But this was unacceptable what Dillon Brooks did last night.
Ryan, what stood out to you from this side of the ball?
I know that we're watching the Grizzlies and analyzing them game by game and hoping for them to play great, but this is all gravy for them right now. I know they're the number 2 seed. They will look back on this playoff run in a year or two and laugh at the mistakes that they made, probably the way Perk's Oklahoma City Thunder, when they reached the finals in 2011, looked back at their first playoff run. They are learning by the game. All of their mistakes look like they're correctable to me. They're just not going to correct them now.
Right.
This is all going to be one giant learning experience for them.
Well, but here's the thing. A try-hard ribbon for the Memphis Grizzlies, we know that that's not what they're going for. We know that's not good enough for them. Even if it can be a stepping stone for them in the future, this is a team that has as high of expectations as we have built on this show for them in our own minds.
He's been gassing them, that's why. What way are you? This way.
Either way.
They've been gassing them, but it's been warranted. They've been bringing it on themselves. As much as we expect of them, they expect more of themselves. But the Warriors going ahead 3-1, it wasn't the only storyline to come out for Golden State last night. And you all alluded to it. Head coach Steve Kerr told Mike Brown that he wasn't feeling well. He might need Brown to coach Game 4. Then 30 minutes later, Kerr registered a positive COVID-19 test and officially gave Brown the reins. So just those who are maybe confused, the path to return right now for folks who are in COVID protocols, the league's ever-changing protocols here. The person either needs to return 2 negative PCR tests 24 hours apart or test for the appropriate CT, which is a cycle threshold levels on days 4 and 5. You can see the details there. With that second option, which seems to be more realistic here, a doctor would still need to assess and give the green light for that person to return. Still to come, though, on NBA Today, Matt and Perk. They break down what makes Harden and Embiid, that duo, so effective and how the Heat can try to stop them tonight. Plus, the bucket, because in the fourth quarter, Al Horford, he absolutely took it over. And he got Giannis back. What do they say? Revenge is best served cold.
And he slapped him.
Nah, that wasn't a slap.
That was a yell afterwards. We never see Al Horford exude that type of emotion, but he was fired up. Giannis was down for a hot minute, but he would get back up. Jason Tatum kicks it back out to Horford.
And leave him.
You cannot, because he
I've been looking like a young Dirk.
that
It's no fun when the rabbit got the gun.
And one.
And so now Boston's lead growing in the fourth. A little resuscitation for Al. He wouldn't even really need it, but just in case, Jason Tatum's got his back.
Oh, big boy. Who said the Celtics could score in the paint?
Little.
That's the Tatum I've been looking for.
He got it done.
Dip. When it's going good, it's going
And Tatum
good.
fired up after that little circus shot. The Celtics, they win it 116-108. All right, guys. So Al Horford, he went to work last night, scoring a career playoff high, 30 points, including 16 in the fourth, a dunk that literally shook up Pfizer for Matt. You're the oldest person on the panel.
Are you?
Yes.
You couldn't tell. You had to ask.
You're right.
So how surprised were you, though, by Al's performance?
I love it.
That?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, but he's been very consistent throughout the playoffs. He's been just playing his role, as Perk and I have been able to approach. Play your role. Doc Rivers used to say, be a star in your role, and that's what he's been doing. He's been being consistent. Although this is a huge outburst for them, he's been playing well. And after, Giannis looked at him and said whatever, it started his engine, and he played really well, and they needed every point.
Absolutely. But look, he's been one of the most, if not the most consistent player all season long, even in the rough patch. And when I look at Al Horford, look, this guy's experienced. Like, he has 132 playoff games under his belt. So he's been here before. I actually battled against Big Al. See, Big Al is not the type of guy that's going to do a lot of barking, but he bites hard, okay? And he's not afraid. He's not afraid to mix it up. He always had the mid-range. Now he's able to stretch the floor and knock down that three-point shot. But like they say, don't poke the bear, man. Some of the quiet ones are the dangerous ones, and that's Al Horford.
Hey, Perk, where's your camera at?
Right.
Can you, how's that bark go again?
That's how it goes.
Well, last night, that's how it went. And since Giannis dunked on Al Horford
That's how it go.
and got a tech, Horford outscored him the rest of the way. 19 points, shooting 70% from the field, made 3 of his 5 3-point attempts. And for more on what changed after the Giannis stank face stare down, here's Tim Legler.
Malika, for me, it's all about late game execution and giving Giannis Antetokounmpo some spacing. I think he looked worn down. He looked gassed at the end of that game. I think part of it is because of the way that the Celtics defense is designed to stop him. We'll take a look at a few possessions here down the stretch. You see, it's a 2-point game for Milwaukee. They're just going to run a simple post up for Giannis. But take a look right here when he catches the basketball. So obviously you've got your primary defender, Jason Tatum, locked in on him. But take a look at the rest of this possession where all of the action is coming defensively. You basically have 4 defenders on the weak side flooding to the zone. Very little spacing for Giannis Antetokounmpo to make a play. And you see Tatum gets the deflection, and as he spins out and recovers this basketball, take a look at where everybody is when Giannis picks it up. Now, he should have an opportunity to make a play, but look at his options offensively right here. You've got Basically, Drew Holiday 5 feet away, that's not an option. He can't see Wes Matthews. This is an impossible angle to throw across the baseline. And the one guy potentially you can hit is Lopez diving to the rim, but you've got so many hands up on the part of the Boston Celtics, that doesn't look like an option either. So instead, it's a cross-court pass and a steal. Giannis tired, not seeing the floor and not having great spacing to help him out. Leads to a breakaway the other direction. And then one more time, Giannis catches this basketball, gets downhill. He wants to get in this area, but once again, look at where everybody is spaced up. 3 guys on this side, Drew Holiday here, and he's floating. So where's the one area of the floor? There should be someone. Giannis needs to have somebody here so when he gets to the paint, he can find a shooter. There's nobody there. And he takes a makeable shot, obviously, for Giannis Antetokounmpo standards. But look at how badly he misses it. That is straight fatigue, and Milwaukee struggling at the end of the game. They've got to adjust that, Malika, if they want to win this series.
Just a reminder that Al Horford is going to be joining us on the show in about 20 minutes. But now NBA writer Brian Windhorst is back with us. You're on the road with the Bucks and the Celtics right now. You're in Milwaukee, but it's clearly been a grueling series for the 2-time MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. You were in the arena last night. What did you notice about his energy level that Tim was just talking about?
Malika, he just has to do so much right now. We all think about how much energy players expend on defense. He's obviously covering a lot of ground on defense. He's having to work so hard on offense, as Legs just showed. The amount of energy he's got to use to bring the ball up, to create angles, he just can't take many plays off. And, the difference between Game 4 and Game 3 is before Game 3, he had 3 days off. The rest of this series, it is just 1 day off, and you could see the difference. And part of it is the Bucks are having to fill in all kinds of gaps to make up for the missing Chris Middleton. That means Giannis having to play more offense, having to use a higher usage rate. It means more shots for Drew Holiday. It means more court time than is preferable for Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton. It shows up everywhere. And the fact that Mike Budenholzer had to take Giannis out of a tight playoff game with 5 minutes to go because he just couldn't run up and down the court anymore illustrates the demands that are on top of the 2-time MVP right now.
Well, and you're never going to hear Giannis Antetokounmpo complain about the demands on him, right? He's the person who says, if you're telling me jump, just tell me how high, and he's going to exude everything to try to do that. But you mentioned Chris Middleton. That makes it so much harder on Giannis right now. Is there an update on when we might see Chris Middleton on his status there?
Well, Malika, they are definitely not ruling him out for the series. He is unlikely to play in Game 5, but he has started practicing a little bit with a little bit of contact, which has opened the door for a possibility that his knee would be strong enough to come back maybe for a Game 7. We'll see if there's any glimmer for Game 6. So I would say that a week ago it was pessimistic he could play in this series. I would say now there's some optimism within the Bucks team that we could see him at some point in this series, but it's not a sure thing, and they should not count on it.
Yeah, well, it can't come soon enough. I'm sure everyone in Milwaukee is crossing their fingers. Brian Windhorst, thank you so much. Giannis, he was putting in work. We continue to put in work on the show. But down in Miami, Tim Bontemps and Nick Friedel, they're just chilling, playing dominoes.
Playing the bone.
We'll get an update from them on 76ers Heat. Hey, gentlemen, can you take a little break? Just pause the game for us? We'll be back after this.
Bank.
Harden on a tough step back, splash! James Harden is turning up the heat on Miami. Harden together, and he buries it. James Harden, the former league MVP, turning the clock back here in South Philly. The Philadelphia 76ers have picked themselves up off the mat, and this is a brand new series.
So the Sixers and the Heat, they resume their series tonight in Miami, tied at 2 games apiece. And the last time these teams met in the Sunshine State, it was a much different series. So let's see how we got here. We started with the Heat just dominating in the paint the first 2 games. Miami averaged 47 points in the paint in games 1 and 2, but then just 38 in games 3 and 4 on the road. And a reason for this, it might have to do just a little bit with Joel Embiid's presence. Embiid returned in game 3, and he's averaged 21 and 11 over the last 2 games. He's also opened up the floor for James Harden, who's coming off a 31-point performance in Game 4. So now we have this pivotal, all-important Game 5, because historically, the winner of Game 5 in a best-of-7 series tied at 2, it goes on to win the series 82% of the time. But I have a feeling I know who's winning. For more on tonight's Game 5, we're joined by two reporters who are literally winning right now. Tim Bontemps with the 76ers and Nick Friedel with the Heat. And I have to say, this isn't our typical live shot. Nick, what's going on? Where are you?
We're just out here living the dream, Malika. We're in Domino Park in Little Havana on Calle Ocho. And Timmy B and I have been down here a couple hours playing dominoes, and we are loving it. And what's so fascinating is, as we've been down here, the talk has centered a lot around Jimmy Butler and the Heat. This is something that is on top of everybody's minds as they're having some fun in the sun here.
Right now, they look pretty focused on their game. So everyone in Domino Park talking about the Heat. Earlier today, the team announced that Kyle Lowry will be out tonight with a left hamstring injury. What's Miami's plan to replace him, Nick?
A lot of Jimmy. This is going to be Bubble Jimmy, the guy we saw lead this team to the finals a year and a half or so ago, Malika. He knows he's got to step up without Lowry on the floor. And he's the one who said repeatedly, we have more than enough to win with. Now, on top of Jimmy having to do more on both sides, I think a lot of pressure falls on Tyler Hero, because he is a guy who has been the sharpshooter that they have needed, but he hasn't always been there as consistently. This is a Miami group that went 14 for 65 in those two games in Philly from beyond the arc. If they start hitting shots early, and I can tell you, having been a shoot-around, that's exactly what they think is going to happen, and Jimmy can carry them down the stretch, they feel like they can take a 3-2 lead back to Philly for Game 6.
All right, so switching to the Sixers, Tim. Tonight's their first game since Adrian Wojnarowski broke the news that Nikola Jokic beat Joel Embiid to win his second straight MVP award. How is that decision playing inside the organization?
Well, obviously the 76ers are disappointed, Malika, that Nikola Jokic edged out Joel Embiid for the MVP award, but that's really not the focus for them right now. While they said they were disappointed, the focus for them is on getting ahead in this series and going back to Philadelphia Thursday night with a chance to do what Joel Embiid has wanted to do all season long, which is get to the Eastern Conference Finals. 3 out of the last 4 years, Philly has gotten to this second round of the playoffs, and they've fallen short, including last year when obviously Ben Simmons' passed up dunk in the fourth quarter of Game 7 led to everything that happened this offseason, and him obviously not playing, and then James Harden getting traded here. But now after winning these last two games with Joel Embiid back on the court, playing through these injuries, now he's going to be available here for Game 5 in Miami, and the Sixers are confident they can not only get this one tonight with Kyle Lowry out, but get back to Philly, get the series wrapped up in 6 games potentially, and finally break through and make it into the Final Four in the NBA for the first time in a very long time.
Well, I imagine that may have lit an extra fire within Joel Embiid. I'm sorry, though, Tim. Is that your cigar that's in front of you right now? Is that for after this live hit's over?
Just a failed prop. That's all. Just a failed
He's
prop.
smoking it on the way to the game. Don't worry. He's got it ready to roll.
But here's the thing. Speaking of props, I have been so distracted by your hat. I don't know how you came to get these, but I did notice that, Nick, you were on SportsCenter earlier, and your hat, it looked a little smaller for your head. You were putting on a hat. You didn't have one. And then you got a small hat. And now you've gotten a slightly larger hat that actually fits your head. Yeah, see, now it's fitting a little bit better. So does that mean that when you're on the 6 o'clock SportsCenter later, your hat is just going to be absolutely enormous? Like, is that what we're going to be rocking? What are we talking about here?
Malika, we are on Calle Ocho, and it's tough to find an Ocho that fits his head. But I think we're finally going to make it happen here in the next couple hours. So I'll be ready to go for the 6. Don't worry.
It's hard to find an Ocho to fit that Ocho. I appreciate both of you joining us here on NBA Today, and I'm just going to let you get back to it. I'm going to rejoin Matt and Perk at the desk. I appreciate you guys.
Don't look at your hand. Pass.
What are you guys doing?
10th and lack, 5 on the front, 5 on the back. Put my points down. Huh? Oh.
I said after the show we could play dominoes.
Yeah, hey, listen, you know how it is when the Cali and the Texas boy get to playing them bones.
Please
but look,
get
come
back
on
to
over
work.
here, man. Hey,
Get back to
you
work.
talking about Joel Embiid and you talking about James Harden pick and roll, the most lethal duo weapon, whatever you want to call it in the NBA, go pull up the numbers. Me and Matt Barnes, my guy Matty Ice, that's what I call him. We about to try to break it down on how to defend the pick and roll, although you can't.
There's nothing you can really do, but we're going to show you some ideas on how you can possibly do it. But then I'm going to rebuke what we show you because I just don't know if it's going to be true anyway.
All right, so look, check this out. You don't want to guard this pick and roll with Embiid and hard. Nope, look, my microphone dropping out. That's what we do at the NBA today. It just happens, okay? Listen, you don't want to guard the pick and roll, hold on, and put this guy in a compromising situation for Bam or PJ Tucker to get in foul trouble because James Harden and Embiid are great at getting at the free throw line. So my adjustment is James Harden showed us 1 quarter that he could shoot the basketball. So I'm going to go bump up, push under, and have Matt go under the screen. We're going to force James Harden to shoot a shot. They come and re-screen, push up again, Matt go under. I got to see if James Harden can make this shot consistently because he hasn't shown me throughout the course of the playoffs.
Now, Big Perk, this is where I'm going to have a little different opinion. Now, if that's James we've seen the last 2 months, I agree. But I've been saying and holding out hope all playoffs that it's only going to take 1 shot or 1 game or even 1 quarter to get James going. So I promise you, Perk, if we get James from last game, first of all, he's going to shoot your eyeballs out. But second, to me, this series is over.
Who you got?
I got Philly.
Oh.
Well, we know we'll have a Game 6 in both of these series on Thursday night on ESPN and the app. Heat Sixers at 7 Eastern, followed by the Suns and the Mavs. The Countdown crew gets our...
Presented by PNC Bank.
Will it be 2-2 going back to Boston for Game 5 Wednesday or 3-1 Milwaukee? There goes Tatum.
I gotta get it. I'm on the mission. Snap any minute. Casually when it stop tripping on me. Stop dissing on me. I got a dream. Can't take it from me.
I mean, this is as intense as it gets, and it's round 2. Boston can take the lead on the road in Game 4. Horford for 3. Yes!
Our backs were against the wall. We needed to respond, and that's what we did. We didn't quit. We just kept pushing.
Now we go back to Boston with a series all tied at 2 apiece.
And now the man who dropped a playoff career-high 30 in his 15th NBA season, Al Horford, thank you so much for joining us here on NBA Today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Of course. So you played a cool 42 minutes last night. No big deal. No Rob Williams. Grant was in foul trouble. The task of guarding Giannis, it fell largely on your shoulders. And I know Grant Williams has told me he spent a little more time in the ice bath this series. So how are you feeling today?
I feel good. I think after a win, you feel a little better for sure. But Marcus Smart, the Defensive Player of the Year, did an unbelievable job late in that third, in the fourth, guarding Giannis, and he was really that difference maker for us down the stretch there.
The win makes it a little bit easier to take it in the chest night in and night out. But your sister, Anna, she's very popular on Celtics Twitter, and here's what she said last night. This is where the Bucks, I'm going to say, messed up. I know that look. He was pissed, and I know you touched on it post-game, but how did that moment spark you?
She definitely knows me, over the years playing family board games and stuff like that. And, that was one of those moments that, for whatever reason, I mean, he made it. It was a good play that he made. I just felt there was a lot of extra stuff there. I didn't like it. That just really got me going.
I know for me, that's the look I give my sister when she borrows my stuff. It's like, okay. For you, is that when she puts down like collect 4 in Uno? Is it when it's like collect a 4 extra cards when you have 1 card? When is it that she became so familiar with that look?
For sure. I mean, it goes back from, us playing, backyard, baseball, volleyball, playing board games, whether it's Uno, Monopoly, whatever it is, stuff like that. We're just competitive.
As someone who comes from a competitive family, I respect that wholly. You did get Giannis back, though, in the fourth. Can you just walk us through this dunk we're about to see? Because we don't always see this level of emotion from you.
Yeah, so Coach Udoka called a pick and roll play. I was able to pop. I saw Giannis close out, and instead of shooting, I just wanted to be aggressive. And I knew that he's such a great defensive player that I had to make sure that I went in strong, and I finished it. And at that point, it's just a lot of emotions. And like you said, I'm normally not the type of guy that's letting things out, but it was that part of the game that I just I was just kind of. It was building up, it was happening, and I just wanted to get my guys fired up, and the team really responded to that.
It certainly got the guys fired up. It got Twitter fired up. I mean, it got all the fans watching fired up. It got people jumping up off of their couches. But I love this tweet from Marcus Smart. He said, "When I'm 36 years old, please, Lord, let me be a fraction of the player that Al Horford is." And I know that he's, ribbing at you, just the grimace on your face. He's ribbing at you just a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, man. Smart's great, and he's our point guard. He's the guy that leads us, shows us the way. He's just a grinder, and I'm just really happy to be playing alongside him.
Well, in all seriousness, though, it was quite a journey for you to get here. What went through your mind last summer? You found out that the Thunder, they were trading you back to Boston.
Very grateful, for that. Sam Presti and the OKC Thunder, were great to me, and giving me this opportunity to come back to Boston, a place that I wanted to be. It's something that I'm just very grateful for. And when I saw the opportunity, I was just really excited, and I knew, the kind of guys that we had here and the kind of things that we're capable of. So I'm really just enjoying this moment right now and, just taking it a game at a time.
What was the biggest difference, would you say, between this Celtics team currently and the one you left back in 2019?
The growth of our younger guys, Jason, completely different level. He's an elite basketball player. Jaylen Brown as well. They've grown so much. And Marcus has come into his own. Marcus has really come into his own, offensively handling the team on the defensive end. Those three guys have really just taken that other step that when I was here the first time, they were on their way, but we didn't know if they were going to ever be that. And they're there. They've taken that step.
When was the moment? It seemed, Jason Tatum, he struggled to score a bit in Game 3. It seemed like he unlocked something in the fourth quarter last night. When was the moment that you looked at him and you thought, this is it?
He got it in the wing, and the defender really crowded him, and he just kind of, with rhythm, got into his shooting pocket and shot a three, and it looked like what he's been doing all year for us. And that one right there, you guys are showing to like that. So as soon as when he hit that one, I was like, yeah, Jason, he's got it going again, and we're ready to roll.
Now he's back. Now he's feeling it. I know Grant Williams says that he's Batman. I know that you have complimented Marcus Smart. He's obviously the defensive player of the year. But are you still trying to show them a little something like, hey, you know what? I'm still the OG on the defense. I'm still one of the anchors of this team as you're going through this series?
Man, I'm just trying to win. And yes. I think my guys know that. And it's like one of those things that it's just a great opportunity that we have in front of us. I'm very grateful for it, and we're really trying to make the most out of it.
Well, Game 5 is tomorrow in Boston. Best of luck to you, Al. Thank you so much for joining us here on NBA Today.
Thank you, Malika.
So here are the odds to win the East according to Caesars Sportsbook. The Celtics are the favorites, followed by the Heat, the Bucks, and the 76ers. So Brian Windhorst is back with us now in Milwaukee. Both series in the East, they're locked up at 2-2. Any outcome is possible. The power rankings for the remaining teams for you is what?
This is a tough one, Malika, because you could ask me again in 48 hours and I could give you a different list.
Fair.
But I put Boston at number 1 right now and really ahead of Milwaukee just because Chris Middleton is injured. I feel like if Middleton was playing that the Bucks would win this series, and it's just a toss-up, and Boston now is home court. And I put Miami 3 ahead of Philly. And I'm skeptical even that because Kyle Lowry is out tonight, and I'm not sure what his status is going to be. But I just don't know about James Harden replicating it. We're talking about two series that are 2-2, and you could make a reasonable case for all four teams winning the whole thing, much less winning the series that they're in. And you could make a case against it, Malika. So this is actually what we want. We want these type of skin-tight series where we can guess as to who is ahead of the other, but we really don't know and have to watch it play out.
Absolutely. I've said multiple times on this show, it's really hard for me to go against the champs ever, but the way that Boston was playing, especially because they were coasting for a lot of the game. They weren't playing up to their potential, and the way they were able to turn it on, it has me starting to question that. But I'm going to stand by it. Never bet against the champs until they're out. Brian Windhorst, thank you so much for joining us here on NBA Today. I so appreciate you. We, though, have so much more show coming up. We're going to look back at some of the best fourth quarter playoff performances in league history. So don't go anywhere. You're watching NBA Today.